Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to Akron City Council to order. At this time, our clerk will read the roll.
Baylor. Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Here.
Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Here.
Amobian. And Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present except for Councilwoman Baylor and Councilwoman Amobian.
Those that voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand as we are led in prayer by Pastor David Nelson, who is the pastor of New Hope Baptist Church. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman Fusco will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Nelson, I think you're on mute.
There we go. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you all. Let's bow in prayer. Gracious and merciful God, we thank you for this gathering of City Council. Today, we thank you in Jesus' name for these elected and appointed leaders who have been endowed with wisdom and leadership to guide and direct our city. So we called on the God of our weary years, the God of our silent tears, the God who has brought us thus far along the way. We thank you for your gracious hand, which has preserved us as a city. We pray for the peaceful continuity of city government and our community amid the current transition of leadership. We believe that unless you watch and protect the city, those who watch will watch in vain. For we know to whom much is given, much is required. So we ask today that you will inspire the City Council to get the work done that is required through their meetings and sessions. Where there's been failure, forgive us. Where there's been progress, confirm us. Where there's been success, give us humility. Give to all of those who you've entrusted with leadership a desire to seek to do your will, from every office in City Hall to the chambers of City Council. While we are aware of the difficulties leadership may and can present, it is there that we ask that you grant our civic leaders the courage, strength, and wisdom to govern and serve the people of this community. And now, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo. McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Abstain.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The motion to approve the minutes passes 12-0 with one abstention.
Before you is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
I'm sorry, was that an abstain?
No, that's aye.
Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
We'd have two items up for public hearing this evening, and our clerk will read in item number 1.
Notice is hereby given that the following open comment public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, November 13th, 2023, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an outdoor advertising display on the east side of Sumner Street, south of I-76. This notice was advertised in the Akron Beacon Journal on October 28th and on the Akron City Council website beginning October 25th.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. Joanna House is the owner of property located northeast corner of East South Street and Sumner Street. Kenjo Outdoor Advertising is requesting permission to place an outdoor advertising display, a billboard, to a height of 75 feet on the northern limits of this property. The double-sided V-shaped billboard would have digital display panels, each measuring 16 feet in width by 25 feet in height for 400 square feet in area, and would be supported by a step steel monopole column. The digital display would include automatic brightness adjustment and would reach an overall height of 75 feet. The digital display would include automatic brightness adjustment, and the petitioner submitted a lighting display indicating the display would comply with national lighting standards. The zoning code establishes the development guidelines for advertising displays permitted as a conditional use, and the proposal meets most of the requirements. The proposed height would be consistent with several recently approved displays to the next higher height district. Additionally, it would allow better visibility over the nearby pedestrian bridge. The proposed digital advertising display is along a heavily traveled length of highway, which is currently undergoing improvements. At a height of 75 feet and faces of 400 square feet, oriented toward the highway, the billboard should not impose on neighboring uses and should contribute to a vibrant business environment by providing an efficient means for local businesses to communicate with consumers. Planning staff and Planning Commission recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 1? If you do, I'd like for you to please stand so that you may be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say I do. Thank you.
So we'll begin with those speaking in favor.
My name's Dan Nielsen. I'm not here to re-give the speech I've given a few times already, but if you guys have questions, I own two or three signs here in Akron or Cuyahoga County, but we've done well in Akron. We've done a lot of local business. We feel that this site is a good spot. It's along I-76 for the sign we're proposing. Again, I think in my application I listed a lot of the local businesses we've done business with. I'm just here to answer any questions, and thank you guys for your time, and that's all.
Okay, thank you so much. So at this time, if there is no one else wishing to speak on item number 1, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
Yes, I'd like to take 1 week's time. Kamer?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Baylor? Baylor?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
The wishes of the committees for 1 week's time.
Okay, time will be granted.
Notice is hereby given that the following open comment public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, November 13th, 2023, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a Type A daycare business center at 493 South Canton Road. This notice was advertised in the Akron Beacon Journal on October 28th and on the Akron City Council website beginning October 25th.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. Angela Anderson is requesting permission to establish a child daycare business center at this location. The proposed daycare center would occupy the entire structure of an approximately 2,500 square foot building with an estimated 50 full-time or part-time children. The lessee intends to hire an estimated 8 to 10 staff members in total. The site was formerly used as the Akron Summit County Library branch, and more recently, the medical office space. There will be no overnight stays. An outdoor play area would be situated along the east side of the parcel away from the building by removing some of the parking spaces. The petitioner intends to fence in the play area and install playground equipment as well as ground cover. The property currently contains an asphalt driveway with 25 off-street parking spaces. The updating and reuse of this building should not have a negative impact upon the surrounding neighborhood and would reutilize the building by providing quality daycare services that are beneficial to the entire city and continue to serve a need within the community. The Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 2? If so, ask you to please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say I do. Thank you.
And we're going to open up our public hearing with those wanting to speak in favor.
Hi, my name is Angie Anderson, and I've been in child care field for over 20 years, and it's always been a passion of mine to own and operate a child care center where I can give back. So we want to, offer a high-quality program to help children 0 to 5. So that's what we like to do.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So at this time, if there's no one else who's wishing to speak in favor or against, we're going to close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull a committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Baylor?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Yes, thank you. I heard the report for suspension of the rules, favorable report. The Planning Commission, Planning Department will recommend approval. I know that Mr. McKittrick has been out to the site. The ward council person is also in favor, so we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you so much. So the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. At this time, all in favor, roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Holland,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Omobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
That concludes our public hearings for this evening. Excuse me, you have to refrain from any clapping. This is an official meeting. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. At this time, that concludes our public hearing. We're going to move into old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to ask for time on 3 through and including 12, and to file item number 13. That's the petition for the conditional use we just voted on, and then time on the balance of the agenda.
Time will be granted. We'll move to public safety. Councilwoman Mosley.
Continue time.
Time will be granted. That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 1, offered by Councilman Neal and Councilwoman Mosley. Resolution expressing sympathy for the innocent civilians victimized by the war in Israel and Palestine, condemning violence of any kind, affirming Akron's status as a welcoming community for those of the Jewish and Islamic religions and any other religion, encouraging residents to offer support and sincere condolences to members of the Jewish and Palestinian communities of Akron and all over the world, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Like to refer, please?
this item will be referred.
Item number 2, offered by Freeman, ordinance providing for the temporary appropriation for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Akron for the period of January 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Consent, please?
Mr. Chair, I believe the committee referred that item.
Oh, okay. My mistake, apologize.
okay, so item 2 will be referred.
Item number 3, offered by Councilman Neal, resolution urging City of Akron to reallocate COVID-19 funds from restaurants to Forever Our Children's shower bus and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Like to refer this item, and I would encourage council members, going back to the previous issue, if you have any questions, to contact Mr. Wheeler this week with appropriations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Yes, ma'am. In regards to item number 3, we were supposed to get some information.
We do.
Asked last week, asked this afternoon. Do we have that information?
We do. We do have some information, and I apologize I didn't get a chance to email it out, but I will. I'm going to share it with you now, okay? So Akron Safe Pledge, we've approved 15 applications thus far. Paid in full, $37,500. There are 16 applications that are pending, okay? Just waiting on a few pieces and parts in terms of individuals' applications. There's a remaining balance of $172,500. And I'll make sure I send that out to everybody.
Okay.
Okay?
So if I understand you correctly, are you saying that 172 is left over after we fulfill those?
Correct. Because it's
So-
40,000 that's still unpaid.
Okay. So then we allocated 250, not 150.
Right.
Okay. So with 172 left, is there any reason why we cannot discuss right now allocating those funds to take care of the shower bus? The shower bus was 100,000. That would give them enough to complete the bus and address the needs of the the houseless community, their health needs, as well as give them some operating funds, and I guess that would leave $72,000 left for Ring doorbell cameras.
Councilman Fusco?
Committee asked to refer the item. That's the,
So that is the appropriate way. The committee did ask to refer. So on next week,
Excuse me, to refer for what reason?
you'll have to ask the committee.
I'm asking now. I asked last week. For what reason? Why are we referring it? What other information do we need? Do we need another funding source?
Okay, so the item has been referred. So,
For what reason? This is the status quo down here. For what reason?
Councilman
Are we
Neal,
referring it?
Councilman Neal,
Yes, ma'am.
you were a part of the committee. You participated in the committee.
in what
And you
committee?
heard the
Excuse me.
committee
No.
take a vote to refer the item.
No.
The item is referred.
Excuse me, ma'am. No, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. The question was supposed to be answered last week. I was told it would be answered this week for the funding. We've identified the funding. I'm asking, what's the holdup? Why are we referring it? Can you at least answer that? We've identified that the money is there. Why are we referring it? We've got people out on the street that would like to be able to take a shower. What's the holdup on that?
Councilman Fusco?
there's, we had heard $100,000. We had heard that there was only 150 when that wasn't accurate. It's 250. We had heard it's $100,000 for this. How much is actually needed? The city is already supplying water, okay, for the bus, already making available the sewer system for the water that's going to be utilized. We don't know exactly how much is needed for the actual bus itself. All we heard within the last few minutes was, well, you know, we could pay for the bus and then give them some operating and do this and do that. This is, I don't know if this is, these are ARPA funds. Not only that, the other side of it, the question was asked, I had heard during committee today, to Guidehouse, the folks who in fact are keeping us in bounds, because ARPA funds, as we all know, is very restrictive. And if you go out of bounds, what you may end up having is a situation where the city becomes audited. We're doing our due diligence. We don't have an answer on that question. And that's the whole reason why today the committee took time, as far as I understand. There's unanswered questions.
Madam Chair, I'd like to answer those questions. Since I sit on CED with National League of Cities, where we discussed and put the guidelines for ARPA funds, those dollars came to our community because of poverty and housing instability. The exact population we're talking about serving. I thought it was 150 because when I asked last week if it was 150, you said yes. It's nice to find out that it's $250,000. And now that we have 172 left. The information regarding what it takes to fund and operate the shower bus was provided not only by those from Forever Our Children who came here to speak, but I also re-forwarded that information. Everyone has it. Everyone has it. Now, if you looked at it, I do not know. It was specifically stated it takes about $68,000 to finish the bus, and the rest will be used for operating. Yes, the administration, a separate branch of government, is doing a lot of in-kind. That was mentioned of the generous in-kind services, but it does not provide for the construction and completion of the bus. Metro is doing things. People in the community are doing things. This is a chance for this body, the legislative body, to support this community collaborative effort and provide the $100,000 so that the bus could be funded.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Again, this item will be referred as it was voted on during committee.
Item number 4, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with the Board of Education of the Akron Public School District for the Community Learning Center's Akron After School Program in order to provide learning enrichment activities and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the Director of the Department of Planning and Urban Development to enter into a contract or contracts for transportation planning services in order to carry out the intent and purpose of programs under the Federal Consolidated Planning Grant for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2024, and in order to further the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Studies, AMATS, goals and objectives of maintaining a cooperative, continuous, and comprehensive framework for making transportation investment decisions in the Akron metropolitan area and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco, ordinance declaring certain improvements to real property located in the Firestone Park urban redevelopment area to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, providing for the collection of service payments in lieu of taxes and the deposit of those service payments in the appropriate fund, providing for the payment of a portion of the service payments to the Akron Public School District, all pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Sections 5709.41 to 5709.43, the Act, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Fusco, ordinance declaring certain improvements to real property located in the Great Streets Akron Initiative area to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, providing for the collection of service payments in lieu of taxes and the deposit of those service payments in the appropriate fund, providing for the payment of a portion of the service payments to the Akron Public School District, all pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Sections 5709.41 to 5709.43, the Act, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 8, offered by Fusco, ordinance declaring certain improvements to real property located in the Exchange Street Opportunity Park Urban Renewal District to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, providing for the collection of service payments in lieu of taxes and the deposit of those service payments in the appropriate fund, providing for the payment of a portion of the service payments to the Akron Public School District, all pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Sections 5709.41 to 5709.43, the Act, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9, offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into an amendatory agreement or agreements with Waste Management of Ohio Incorporated for waste disposal professional services in the Sanitation Services Division of the Public Works Bureau in the Department of Public Service and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, this legislation came before us and the committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, this legislation is offering a 3-year contract with Waste Management, offsetting the 25+ year long agreement we've had with them in the past. And the reasoning for the 3-year contract is to allow Waste Management to look for a new location. And with that, we're asking for its passage.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Holland,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 10, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a 5-year renewal contract or contracts with Flock Group Incorporated for hardware and software services for vehicle recognition technologies and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, this is to a renewal of the contract for the flock cameras, which offers us vehicle recognition technology. And with that, we're asking for its passage.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco, Holland,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 11, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and, if awarded, accept and expend the FY 2023-2024 Quick Response Team grant funding from the Ohio Attorney General's Office Law Enforcement Diversion Program and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, this legislation will provide encouragement, information, and resources to those who work in the intervention field, and we're asking for its passage. Thank you.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco, Holland,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We're now going to move to the portion of our meeting, which is public comment period. At this time, I'm going to ask all those who have signed up to please stand so that you may be sworn in.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just going to ask, when you hear your name, please approach the podium. We do want to remind you that you will have 3 minutes to speak to this body and that this is an official meeting. We are going to begin, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, Yassine. Yeah, push that.
Yep, thank you. Esteemed council members, thank you for allowing me to address you today. I've been involved in outreach efforts as a part of my community's interfaith work in the Akron area. I was only 10 when we started engaging in a Jewish-Muslim dialogue, utilizing the meaningful Children of Abraham curriculum to foster mutual understanding between our faith traditions. In our shared experiences, I've come to admire different faith traditions and the beautiful diversity of our community. It's crucial to recognize that many of us in this room and our respective communities hold a profound respect for different faiths and a high regard for each other. I want to emphasize that the blanket assumption that criticism of a state's policies equates to animosity towards an entire ethno-religious group oversimplifies complex geopolitical issues and stifles constructive dialogue. Criticism of the policies and actions of a state, whether it be Israel Russia, Saudi Arabia, or India shouldn't be automatically equated with prejudice against the religious or ethnic groups associated with those nations. It is essential to separate political critique from broader stereotypes or discriminatory attitudes towards the people who identify with a particular faith. Just as criticizing Russia for its actions in Ukraine is not inherently anti-Christian, condemning Saudi Arabia for its role in Yemen is not anti-Muslim, and denouncing India for its actions in Kashmir is not anti-Hindu, criticizing Israel for its actions does not make one automatically anti-Semitic. Political criticism is integral to democratic discourse and allows individuals to engage in meaningful discussions about government decisions and human rights. Today, I stand before you not as a representative of any particular faith, but as a citizen of this country, urging this council to act. As citizens of this country, we pride ourselves in our core values of freedom, justice, and liberty for all. These values are deeply embedded in our history and have played a crucial role in shaping our identity, reflecting a commitment to individual liberties and protecting fundamental human rights. We witnessed the suffering endured by those living under occupation for the last 75 years, fighting for freedom and justice. It is incumbent upon us to call for an immediate ceasefire and an end to this brutal occupation. More than 1,100 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since October 7th. And in Israel, the death toll is at 1,200. And 700,000, that's more than half the children in Gaza, have been displaced, forced to leave everything behind. Is it not time for us to reflect on our previous positions? I am disappointed that despite overwhelming support to issue a new resolution calling for a ceasefire, this council decided not to take action. Let's advocate for justice, compassion, and the right of every individual to live in peace and freedom. Together we can make a difference.
But your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to ask, this is our first warning. This is official meeting. There will be no clapping, okay? And if it persists, we will have to empty out chambers, okay? Ahmad.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak to you once again. I just want to say my name is Ahmad Khalid Ahmed Mustafa Jadalullah. And the reason why I say that is because there's been some question about whether we know our history or not. My name extends back 320 years. That is my father's name, my grandfather's name, my great-grandfather's name, and his father's name. We know our history. We know about the conflict in detail. Please don't question our knowledge. As far as this resolution that was brought forth and tabled, I don't see any controversy behind it. I would just ask, I'll make this simple for everybody. If you love America, would you please stand?
At this time,
You cannot ask, I mean, just stand.
but this is a public comment period, right?
Correct, yes.
So you use your 3 minutes to speak to this body.
Sure.
There is no responses. There is no telling council or audience members what to do, okay?
Sure. I apologize. Can I have some time back since I did not know that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we all love this country, and I appreciate you guys all standing. First of all, we do believe in the rule of law here. We do believe that an illegal occupation is just that, an illegal occupation. We would never work or want to employ somebody that was involved in illegal behavior. If something was illegal, we would be asked to report it, correct? If we have a friend that does something wrong, we would call them out on it. We would actually report them if we have to, and we would definitely not support it. As far as a ceasefire, it's a very simple thing to end death and destruction. The killing of innocents is never acceptable. Even if there is somebody hiding amongst them, you do not bomb an entire group of people who are hiding just to get the bad guy. At the rate of what's going on in Gaza, I think they've killed 100 militants, but they have to get to 12,000 plus individuals, maybe more buried underneath the rubble, to get to those people. That would be the equivalent of somebody hiding at Akron Children's Hospital and saying, you know what, let's blow the building up. We'll get our guy. It does not make sense. Israel's already proven to itself that it can go into crowded places because they have created refugees in multiple places, including on the West Bank. They have refugee camps there, and somehow they're able to go in the middle of the night and abduct people. So they can do it without destroying entire villages. As far as what's going on in Gaza, the siege on Gaza, the not allowing for fuel, food, water, humanitarian supplies, and medical supplies is illegal by international law, and we've signed on to the Fourth Geneva Convention. So therefore, we are allowing this to happen, which is definitely wrong. The other thing too is the occupation, which is also deemed illegal by international bodies, including the EU, the UN, and the United States. If I can have a little more time, if you don't mind. And the United States is also illegal. We cannot support that anymore. In fact, we need to call that out, and we also need to not involve ourselves with an entity that is involved in illegal behavior. Our sister city, which is Kiryat Akron, is actually located in Lidda, which is the site of an old Palestinian village that was basically evacuated and exterminated. And guess where all those people went to? You guessed it, refugee camps in Gaza. We need to know this stuff. As far as the ministers in the Israeli government, they've called us animals, they've called us a cancer, they've called us the children of the dark. I've heard these words before, and that's why a certain group of people got a homeland of their own. We need a homeland of our own. We need a state of our own. The same reasons that they say that they need a homeland is the same reason we need a homeland. Their ministers right now are calling for openly for genocide and eradication of the Palestinian people. They make no bones about it. In fact, their current security minister actually was involved with a gang that assassinated Yitzhak Rabin, and he was willing to hand over the occupied territories for a Palestinian state. So basically, this is what we're up against. A lot of people there do not want peace. In fact, they're arming their settlers to work against that and to dispossess and kill the Palestinian people. If that is not called state-sponsored terrorism, then I don't know what is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Waleed?
Good evening. My name is Waleed Khalid Ahmed Abu Khalid, a proud American Palestinian. I am also a Semite. So if you don't like anything I say, don't throw it back in my face, say that you're an anti-Semite. I cherish my heritage very much. I am a product of the diaspora of 1948. My parents, my grandparents were displaced. I was born in Kuwait, lived briefly in Jordan, but grew in America. And what a great experience it has been. I'd like to remind everybody, our forefathers, the colonists, rebelled against King George because of the Stamp Act, because of the Hampton Act, the Sugar Act, all the taxes. And as a result, the Revolutionary War came to existence. Now imagine a colonist uproots your heritage, ethnically cleanses you. 700,000 dispersed geographically. The situation currently, as we see today in Gaza, is also being experienced in the West Bank, but it's not being talked about in mainstream media. IDF forces are currently taking action in the West Bank. Illegal settlers, armed illegal settlers, go in and uproot Palestinians from their home, throw them out of their home, take over their home, or they demolish their home. Again, I'm not here to Google you these statistics. You can do that on your own. Okay? We have a right to exist. We are human beings, just like every entity. We ask for our civil liberties. We ask for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We ask for an immediate ceasefire. Ask yourself the following question. Why are you selling your soul to the devil? What's holding you back? Do the right thing. Violence is violence. Thank you.
Ali, thank you. Samir?
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I want to first begin by thanking you, Councilman Neal, Councilwoman Mosley, for co-sponsoring the resolution that is before you, City Council. I was here earlier today and I listened to the chair of that committee explain that the resolution needed to simmer for 1 week. This as the average death count of Palestinian children in Gaza goes up by 1,000 in each week. And you know, I'm standing before you today because for the past 5 weeks, my fellow Palestinians and I around the world and our allies and our comrades, by the millions, or as the Irish say, by the thousands and by the millions, we are all Palestinians. We've been asking, we've been begging, we've been crying, and we are done doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, the resolution before you is a gift to you, not to us. Considering the lives of innocent children who are being blown up by US weapons as sacred as those of your own children is your gift, not ours. We do not stand before you as supplicants. We are not here to beg anymore. We're here to remind you that not 30 miles from here on the shores of Lake Erie, there is a plaque on the ground. I saw it with my own eyes. And it says, here is the last stop on the Underground Railroad. This is a city that has done what is right. You know the difference. I've looked in your eyes. I know you know. I know you know. And whatever political machinations are keeping you from doing what's right and acting upon it are not bigger than the catastrophe that is befalling innocent children just like your own. Consider that, please, in the coming week as you let this resolution simmer. And while you're at it, remember that in this country, so far, there are only 2 cities that have stood up for a ceasefire. And by becoming the 3rd, you will add to the legacy of Akron, Ohio. You will keep its history on the right side. I beg of you, please, do the right thing on behalf of the Palestinians in this room, but also on behalf of the children in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize if I mispronounce Ahmad Ali.
Thank you. It's Amjad Ali. I realize that we, the citizens and council members of Akron, have limited influence and ability to mitigate the pain and suffering of the people of Gaza that is unfolding before our eyes. But at a minimum, we must speak up. As their brothers and sisters in humanity, we cannot stand silent, not while so many who have suffered the indignity of displacement, occupation, and suppression for so long are now being slaughtered in front of our very own eyes. We cannot stand silent for their sake and for our own sake and our own moral consciousness as human beings. The events of the past several weeks have been painful to so many of us on all sides of this long-standing crisis. Regardless of where we stand politically, and this is a humanitarian appeal, not a political appeal, I beg, I pray, I implore our U.S. government to do everything in its power to end the disproportionate, collective punishment and killing of innocent civilians, so many of whom are babies and children. Thousands of babies and children. Government-funded retribution will not advance peace or progress. I repeat, government-funded retribution, and this is what it is, will not advance peace or progress. It will only further entrench the divisions, pain, and suffering of innocent people on all sides of the equation for years and generations to come. We need moral courage that rejects using U.S. taxpayer dollars to finance the death and destruction of innocent men, women, children, and families. This is not a solution. It is not a path to the sustainable security, peace, and dignity deserved by Israelis and Palestinians, Christians, Jews, and Muslims alike. Again, I acknowledge the limited capacity of the folks in this room to influence the events unfolding in Gaza, but please, at a minimum, go on the record with a resolution to show that we see what is happening. We acknowledge the pain and suffering of the people in Palestine and Israel, and we support real, equitable, long-term solutions that advance the dignity and worth of all of the people in the region, in accordance with international law and basic human decency. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
Thank you. Of all the scenes and images and sounds that have left me speechless, bereft, and outraged since Israel unleashed hell and more American-made weapons on the Gaza Strip last month, few have been as firmly seared into my memory as the video of a man in scrubs in a Gaza hospital trying to comfort a little boy who has just survived an Israeli airstrike that hit his family's home while they were asleep. Maybe 3 years old, the boy sits on a bench, rigid but shaking, barely blinking, covered in gray dust. He nods in response to some of the man's questions and manages to say a few words. The man, this Palestinian man, this human animal, this terrorist, rubs the boy's tummy and his back. Only after the man scoops the boy into his arms is the little one able to cry. Great heaving sobs. The man kisses the top of the boy's head and tells him not to be afraid, that the bombing is over, that he is here with him. He asks the little boy if he wants his dad. Another jerky, wordless, tear-streaked nod. And the man tells someone off camera to go find the boy's father. I'm a history teacher, and I became a history teacher to make sure that my students would learn the history that I didn't learn in school, especially the histories of oppression and imperialism and, yes, resistance. Those histories that were hidden from sight. Today, though, despite the best efforts of the Israeli and US governments, my students don't need me to teach them this history. They can see with their own eyes the genocide being carried out by our taxpayer dollars. Far from being hidden, this depraved chapter of history is being flaunted before it's even written down. All we are asking you to do with the resolution that you've decided to let simmer is to believe your eyes. Register the relentless bombing of schools and hospitals and ambulances and people fleeing and the places they've been told to flee to. The snipers picking off nurses and doctors and people trying to dig graves in a hospital compound because the morgues are full and there's no refrigeration there anyway. The 1.5 million people forcibly displaced with no water, fuel, or electricity in an area that if it were here would stretch from near Green through Akron to just north of Streetsboro. Enough. Tell me, tell my students, tell the residents of Akron that you won't stand for this either. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Lydia?
The genocide of the civilians in the Gaza Strip by the State of Israel under the guise of self-defense is wrong. It is crucial that we address injustice, call for the immediate action to bring about a ceasefire and humanitarian aid. We need to be superheroes that the people in Gaza desperately need. The actions taken by the State of Israel under the pretext of self-defense are not only violations of human rights, but a crime against humanity. As citizens of the United States, we cannot stand idly by and watch the suffering of our fellow human beings. We must be advocates for peace, justice, and the well-being of all people, regardless of their nationality or ethnicity. Such violence to civilians is not only a crime against humanity, it goes against everything we believe in as citizens of the United States. We need superheroes to save the children, women, men, injured, sick, thirsty, hungry, hundreds and thousands of people whose homes have been destroyed. They have no water to drink, to wash, to clean their wounds, to use for sanitation, to use for basic hygiene. We should all go 24 hours without water, without a bathroom, to feel an ounce of what our brethren are experiencing under the horrific war crimes of Israel. We need superheroes. Superman's motto was always truth and justice. In the 1940s, during World War II, to gain public support for the war, Superman's motto was modified to truth, justice, and the American way. After World War II, in 1948, Superman was asked to use his powers for truth, tolerance, and justice. There was a time when no motto was used at all. In the 60s, during the Civil Rights Movement, his motto changed to truth, justice, and freedom. In the early 70s, after the killing of the Kent State students who were exercising their rights to freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, to protest the Vietnam War, his motto changed to truth, justice, and peace for all mankind. Most recently, his slogan was truth, justice, and a better world. Erin Brockovich just wrote a book entitled Superman's Not Coming. She writes, "It is we, the people, that have to step up and be advocates. The solution for Israel is simple: end apartheid. Israel is not a democracy if half the people are denied basic human rights and live in a militarized zone. We must step up and do our part. All that we can do is spend 3 minutes of my time here to advocate for a ceasefire, to cry for the end of the genocide, to plead for humanitarian aid. But you're here in council, you can do more. You can address and name this problem. You can do and can be part of the solution. You can make a statement that Akron has sympathy for the civilian victims, decry the horrific acts of violence, clearly state that Akron is a welcoming community. Akron can urge and plead for an immediate ceasefire and humanitarian aid. Akron can call for emergency measures and question its relationships with states that fail to abide by international law. Be not afraid. Have courage to do what is right and condemn what is wrong. Martin Luther King faced many obstacles while on his nonviolent mission for equality. He was arrested over 20 times protesting. He was the object of violent attacks. King never chose fear, but he always chose courage and determination when fighting for civil rights and oppression. Don't be afraid. Stand up to do what's right.
Thank you. Muhammad?
Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I am a Palestinian American. I was give you a little bit of my past here to make it more relevant. Was born in the States, grew up in a small town outside of Ramallah in occupied Palestine, a town called Turmataya. I came back to the States here when I was in high school and finished my education here in the States, but I still have family there. My small town was attacked by violent Israeli settlers just about a couple of months before October 7th, where they burnt 30 homes, burned 60 cars, and killed an innocent young man who was attempting to help his neighbors out of a burning house. So this issue is very deep to me and personal. My parents still live there. And my dad, 3 days before October 7th, was attacked by Israeli settlers by taking a wrong turn, heading towards his own olive orchards. Was beaten. He's 80 years old, black and blue in the face, and car, beat up. And thankfully, he was, safe after they let him go. I believe because he spoke a little bit of English, that they felt a little bit of mercy on him and let him go. As a Palestinian American, as a physician, and a father, my commitment above all else is preservation of life. And it is because of that I am here today to support the City Council resolution for immediate ceasefire in Gaza. I'm hopeful that in passing this resolution, the City of Akron will join the millions of people and numerous human rights organizations in being on the right side of history and prioritizing lives and well-being of civilians. An immediate ceasefire is not just a temporary pause in hostilities. It is a crucial step towards preventing further loss of life and easing the suffering of people in Gaza. In the past 35 days, 25,000 tons of bombs, which is about 2 nuclear bombs, were dropped on Gaza. Again, small area, like some other people mentioned, small area, most densely populated area in the world, really. It's basically smaller, just about half the size of Columbus. 11,000 people have died. Of that, 4,500 were children. Over 1.5 million people have been forced to be displaced. As a physician, a couple of stats from the healthcare field. 270 attacks have been carried out against the clinics and hospitals in Gaza. 60% of hospitals are inoperable, non-functioning at this time. 71% of primary care clinics are out of function at this point. So with the healthcare facilities under attack, which is a war crime, by the way, under international law, and full blockade of the Strip of all sources of water and electricity, basically the numbers are going to only go up from this point on. I have a little bit more to go, but...
I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nate Jones.
Evening. I'd like to use my time to fully articulate what it means to stand with Israel. And there's no better way to make this point than to hear it from the horse's mouth. I have collected statements from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and ex-Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, and many others. With these statements, I hope to make it clear what the intentions of the Israeli government are. For today, we'll look at comments by these individuals that are intended to dehumanize and stir up hatred for not just Hamas, but Palestinians as a whole. Let's start with a comment from Benjamin Netanyahu's October 28th statements on currently ongoing operations in Gaza. This statement begins with labeling Gaza the fortress of evil. This fortress of evil is home to a population of over 2 million people, nearly half of which are children. On October 10th, Yoav Gallant said in a press briefing, "We are putting a complete siege on Gaza. No food, no water, no electricity, no fuel. It is all closed. We are fighting animals and acting accordingly. This is explicitly collective punishment against a population of which 65% did not want to break a ceasefire. The whole of the Gazan people are targeted by this, not just Hamas. Hospitals are deprived of basic needs to run, children are deprived of education and nutrition, and international aid workers and first responders are deprived of the supplies they need to carry out life-saving work. The ending of the statement is just as alarming and sinister, the comparison of Palestinians to animals. Given that the siege and blockade targets all Gazans, it cannot be assumed he's referring to just Hamas. In an interview with Naftali Bennett, he responds to a question concerning safety of Palestinian civilians and conditions of hospitals who have lost power for life support and incubators is as follows, quote, Are you seriously keep on asking me about Palestinian civilians? What's wrong with you? Have you not seen what happened? We are fighting Nazis. Further in his response, he says, I am not going to feed electricity or water to my enemies. If anyone else wants, that's fine. We're not responsible for this, end quote. These comments only further imply that Palestinian civilians are considered enemies. Furthermore, the idea other countries or aid groups could provide aid or resources is a fantasy. Israel's blockade is devastatingly thorough, only allowing for at most a trickle of aid through during severely limited windows of time. I feel these comments speak for themselves. Dehumanization of Palestinians is encouraged by those in positions of power. I'd like to finish off by addressing a dire situation unfolding right this second. Right now, there is a hospital with nearly 40 premature newborns taken off incubators due to lack of power at Al-Shifa Hospital. 3 so far have died, and that was as of yesterday. The rest are at risk of death unless Israel agrees to provide passage of supplies and fuel. A deal was struck to bring in half the fuel asked for, but was rescinded by Israel for a minuscule offer of 300 liters. The fuel was airdropped near the hospital but unable to be retrieved due to ongoing strikes on the hospital complex
I'm
and
so
staff
sorry, but
and by
your time
Israeli
is up.
occupation forces. Demands for a ceasefire are
I'm so sorry, but your time is up. Elise?
Hello. Do I just start?
Yes.
All right. I am here today urging you to pass the resolution calling for an end to Israel's genocide in Gaza. The resolution is already very tame and is the very least we can do. And I do not use the term genocide lightly. Since the Nakba, the catastrophe, the invasion, when hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were kicked out of their homes to make room for Israeli settlers, and thousands more were murdered, since then, Palestinians have lived under Israeli military rule in an apartheid state. The conditions were already intolerable before October 7th. And apartheid is not an exaggeration. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International and other reputable human rights orgs are using that term. Palestinians have attempted peaceful resistance and have been murdered, imprisoned, and tortured for it. Someday we will look at the crimes of Israel the way we look at apartheid South Africa. We will recognize this for the fascism it is, the racism it is, the genocide it is. Israeli leaders themselves talk about ethnic cleansing. They are not even pretending to act in self-defense anymore. You'll want to be on the right side of history for this one, and when people call you out for standing with the oppressors, it is not anti-Semitism, it is not threats, it is cowardly and unfair of you to claim that. And it's dangerous for Jewish people as well when you conflate opposition to state violence to anti-Semitism. When you say Israel represents the Jewish community and commits atrocities on behalf of Jews, it drives up anti-Semitism, and it is dishonest. There have always been anti-Zionist Jews who reject Israel. But I'm here today for Palestinian people in solidarity against all genocides, against state violence of all kinds to all oppressed groups. I've always thought of myself as someone who wouldn't have sat quietly and let the Holocaust happen, and I won't sit quietly and let another one happen now, funded by my tax dollars and supported by my representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Janos?
Greetings to Nancy Holland, who decided to stay home today, again. On the 11th hour of November 11th, 1918, all guns went silent in honor of Armistice Day, and that ended the First World War. But the call for peace still matters in that day's meeting, despite the fact that it is now called Veterans Day. Across the United States, people spend it in many ways. Perhaps you spend it wearing a poppy and learning about how Grandpa stormed Normandy or fought in Vietnam. Maybe you spent it getting a free meal, as many did at the Sheets and Firestone Park where I work. I spent Veterans Day serving veterans, and it was exhausting. I got some extra money out of it and got one veteran free beer, so not all was bad. But some are less lucky than others. 33,129 veterans are homeless, and at least 94,000 have been deported since 1996. 6,146 veterans commit suicide every year. Few countries know how to dishonor veterans like Israel and the United States. There is no ceasefire in Palestine, and more than 11,000 Palestinians lie dead. Doctors and nurses are forced to do emergency C-sections without anesthetic. Countless Gazan babies cling to life outside incubators, and hospitals run without electricity. The conditions in Gaza were already insane before October 7th, but now they are impossible. I, like many historians, was raised on a simple phrase, never again. Israel has taken that phrase to mean never again for themselves only, and the U.S. continues to aid them with ships, money, and weapons. Now everyone wishes for me to condemn Hamas. Most of Hamas's fighters are orphans and are resisting a genocide from the world's largest concentration camp. I will not condemn them. Hamas fighters will be honored veterans, but the IDF is a force of thieves and terrorists that deserve the same condemnation as the Nazi Wehrmacht. Israel created Hamas, as Netanyahu proudly admitted to in 2019. Israel is hitting itself while genociding thousands. The time for action is now. Cancel contracts with companies like HP and cut all ties to Kiryat Akron. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Mano.
Good evening, Council. Like everyone else has said, 12,000 or more dead in Gaza, hospitals bombed, besieged, genocide and ethnic cleansing. That's what you supported when you support Israel. When you support violence by the powerful, which is what you did with your statement of support for Israel, you only create more violence. So I'd like to keep it short, and I'd just like to say I urge you, Council, to pass the new resolution drafted by members of the Akron community and by Palestinian community members of the Akron community. It's the moral thing to do. The only thing I would say is I question why you've rushed into passing your support for Israel, yet want patience and demand evidence for this new resolution. My guess would be that you despise the powerless and see yourself in the powerful because you identify with the oppressors. Finally, as for Nancy Holland, as a Ward 1 resident, I'd like to say, Nancy, I hope you enjoyed defending genocide and then pretending like you're a victim. Free Palestine.
Thank you. And I apologize if I mispronounce last name, Sabi. Okay. Jacob Williams.
Not sure what I have to say today, other than that everything's been clearly communicated, and the questions are pretty simple that we're asking you. And you guys have to understand, like, there's no way y'all don't understand what people are saying. And yet you continue to do this cycle over and over with Jalen Walker, with developments on like peat bogs and I don't know. And now this. I guess like what was on my mind that I really wanted to share was an observation about last week's meeting. We all know that like Nancy Holland rallied supporters to come and wear a necklace with her face on it, making this issue, this conversation about her. And I'm hesitant to even mention her because I feel like this is what she wants, is to pull away from what people are actually saying, which is just want peace, just like what we think you guys want. Well, I don't know about that because y'all bring the violence. But every single one of those supporters walked out hanging their head low. So I just think that's worth noting. And also it's worth noting that like Nancy Holland is here virtually, and last week she said that it was because there is a credible threat. My question is, why would you send your friends into the building if you're not even comfortable going into this building wearing your face on a necklace? It just doesn't add up. And is that credible threat here again today? And why does nobody know about it or what it is? Like, seems a little sketchy to be here, right? Like, but I just know it's just more of pulling the victim feeling more toward you guys. I don't know. Yeah. Peace.
Thank you. Shar?
Good evening, Council. Thank you for, first of all, finally allowing us to speak. We were here this afternoon, and I forget the gentleman's name. He was some type of president of the Council. He refused to let us speak, and shame on him, and shame on the people in the Council who let that happen. But I do appreciate your time today. My name is Shar Jawed. I'm a longtime resident of Akron, Ohio area. I want you to know I'm here as an American. I'm here as a proud American, first and foremost. I love this country, and I love what this country stands for. And this country stands for things that are diametrically opposed to what the Israelis are doing in Gaza, and that's why it needs to stop. I want you to know we want a ceasefire in Ukraine. We want a ceasefire in Chad. We want a ceasefire in Ethiopia. We want a ceasefire everywhere. Our goal is to stop the killing and maintain human life. The current situation in Gaza and Palestine is terrible. I acknowledge and respect the fact that folks are doing what they can to help innocent civilians. No one supports harming civilians. This current violence helps no one. An immediate ceasefire is completely in line with the values, ideas, principles America cherishes and strives to achieve: equality, diversity, unity, liberty, self-government, saving life, promoting peace, justice, human rights, not just in America, but unique to America everywhere around the world. The same principles that apply to a ceasefire and end of hostilities in Ukraine apply to Gaza. But for context, we must explain clearly, as many others before me said, this conflict is not with the Jewish people. This conflict is with the Zionists, and you need to wake up to that reality. There is much information distortion of historical facts that have perpetuated the violence. And when we hear this afternoon, the council said we want more education, and I have education to provide you. To advance the peace and justice we seek, it's imperative we address misconceptions and distortions that the Zionist media machine keeps pumping out against Muslims, Palestinians, Arabs in general, both Christians and Muslims, Arabs, and how the Zionists are always the victims when in fact they're the victimizers. One of the misconceptions is the conflict has been going on for thousands of years. Therefore, there's no reason to look here now. Don't worry, keep supporting us, keep sending us trillions of dollars. The Zionists tell us, we have your back, we're supporting Western values, when nothing could be further from the truth. Additionally, that the Palestinians, the Christian Muslims, and Arabs are anti-Semitic. That is a lie. We've lived peacefully, coexisted with the Jewish people for thousands of years, and if I have time, I'll get to it, but I'm not going to get to it. Basically, I want you to know that we stand with Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein had the courage, December 4th, 1948, to publish a letter in the New York Times condemning and refuting and completely rejecting Zionism and the Zionist state of Israel. He refused to even step foot in Israel because he abhorred what they were doing to the people of Palestine. Ceasefire is consistent with America's values. I urge you to authorize a ceasefire or vote for a ceasefire. And how you vote will tell us more about whether your humanity is intact or whether it's been corrupted by distortions and misinformation.
I was trying to let you finish your comment. Your time is up. I apologize. I apologize. I apologize. Okay. Shar, thank you. Amira?
I'd like to read you some headlines, and these are from different pieces of media. Israel admits to sterilizing Black Ethiopian Jewish immigrants without their knowledge. Israel admits shameful birth control drug injected in unaware Ethiopian Jews. Clashes as Ethiopian Israelis protest over police shooting. Sounds familiar. Here's one fighting on behalf of Ethiopian Jews. Israeli government admits to sterilizing Ethiopian Jews. These are articles, all from different sources. Israel admits targeting Ethiopian Jews for compulsory contraception. The plight of Ethiopian Jews in Israel. Israel unblocks big immigration of Ethiopian Jews. Why? Why would it need to be blocked in the first place? And I'm going to read you an excerpt with part of the time that I have left from one of these articles. And this is titled, Israel's Treatment of Ethiopians Racist. Health officials in Israel are subjecting many female Ethiopian immigrants to a controversial long-term birth control drug in what Israeli women's groups allege is a racist policy to reduce the number of Black babies. The contraceptive, known as Depo-Provera, which is given by injection every 3 months, is considered by many doctors as a birth control method of last resort because of the problems treating its side effects. However, according to a report published last week, use of the contraceptive by Israeli doctors has risen threefold over the past few years. Figures show that 57% of Depo-Provera users in Israel are Ethiopian. Even though the community accounts for less than 2% of the total population, about 90,000 Ethiopians have been brought to Israel under the law of return since the 1980s, but their Jewishness has been subsequently questioned by some rabbis and is doubted by many ordinary Israelis. Ethiopians are reported to face widespread discrimination in jobs, housing, and education, and it recently emerged that their blood donations were routinely discarded. This is about reducing the number, and this is a quote, by the way. This is a quote that I'm reading. This is about reducing the number of births in a community that is Black and mostly poor, said Hedva Eyal, the author of the report by Women to Women, a feminist organization based in Haifa, in what they're calling northern Israel, but we know it's Palestine. But these crimes are committed by the Israeli government, the Zionists. The unspoken policy is that only children who are white and Ashkenazi are wanted in Israel. She said,
I'm going to ask you to please take your seat. Thank you. Thank you. You could actually pass them to the councilwoman and we can make sure that council gets an opportunity to look at them. Thank you. Amir Yassin.
Good evening. My name is Ammar Yassin, actually a product of a war. In 1948, my great-grandfather flowed the country from Palestine in Haifa with his wounded son, who was shot in the face and was in a coma, with my father, who was 1 day old, flew with the boat to Lebanon, where the country I was born. 20 years later, my father was shot and killed by Israeli strike. I've been all over the world since then, from Lebanon to Somalia, to Africa, to Europe. I end up in the United States. I've been a member of this community for the last 30 years, serving the community. I'm very thankful to be here today and have been a member to serve this community. And I have seen problems of this community and it's not the greatest look. America overseas has been known as a great country in the world and was famous with helping others and neighbors. Always fought for moral reasons and never identified ourselves with who we vote for in the last election. To me, America is not the greatest country anymore by supporting criminals, countries who's killing children, infant. For the last 30 days, we will just watch it on TV, how kids chop them head. Are you guys so generous here? Have enough money to spend it and give it to different countries to kill, support weapons? You don't have enough problems? Look at the sidewalk. Look at the light post. That is all over. Education. One time I asked a little child came through, I asked him, where's Lake Erie? You know what he answered me? He told me, Pacific Ocean. Mr. Council, he's been fighting for the last couple of months, I found out, about building a shower for a homeless. I don't want to say free Palestine. I want to say Free your mind, please.
Thank you. Ariana?
Good evening, Council. There's not much I can say that hasn't already been said, but I just, with the situation going on in Palestine, it's been so easy for me to feel hopeless across the ocean here. It's been easy for me to feel even somewhat removed. So when I saw that this was on the agenda for this evening, I thought, okay, maybe this is something tangible that I can do. Maybe this resolution is something tangible that we can do as a city. The way I see it, this situation is not complicated. What's happening is genocide in Gaza, and I think this is a real opportunity for us to set an example for other cities and to show up for our Palestinian neighbors, to call for a ceasefire, and not just a ceasefire, but to call for the end of the occupation of Palestine. So I just want to voice my support, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Chris Mercury?
I got to push a button.
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. Good evening, y'all. How y'all doing? My name is Chris Mercury. I'm part of BEBC, Beyond Expectations Barber College. I want to tell y'all a little bit about myself. Before I went through the program, I had a troubled past. I had been incarcerated twice, some other trouble. But through the program, it showed me that Mr. Eric showed me that there's another way to do things. And he's trying to show that to a whole bunch of people in our community. And it seems like there's like a personal vendetta against Mr. E. And that's weird to me because the man doesn't do nothing but great things for the community. It's obvious that the funding was taken away from us, and what's even worse is that the president of the council, an African-American woman who lives in Ward 3, is taking this opportunity not to speak her voice and to do what's right. And that's weird to us. And it's almost like your silence is complicity. And we just wanted to let you know that there's a lot of people that go through the program that might not have an opportunity to change their life. Through the program, they have an opportunity to change their life. It's just sad to me that y'all don't see the value in that. And I just wanted to say that, and I'm going to leave it alone.
Thank you.
All right.
David Garan? Is David Garan here? Lily is in the hallway.
David Garan. I have 3 or 4 topics to bring up. A response to Clutch's proposal to build a combo headquarters and retail store along with 3 other retail buildings on the small White Pond parcel. Clutch ought to build its headquarters and retail shop on the retail portion of Triton Properties. Triton needs to fill its retail property. Additionally, the 3 retail buildings in Clutch's proposal will be difficult to find tenants, as we see multiple retail spaces lie empty near the interstate on White Pond and on Frank Boulevard. Topic 2. On SUMA's proposal for East Market Street, I continue to urge council to go slow on this proposal, to spend at least 1 year, similar to what you did for Merriman, to fully engage neighbors directly, who are directly affected by this proposal, and the remainder of the people of Akron. This proposal will reduce the number of affordable housing units in the area. We need affordable housing. 3, council needs to deal with its biases against members of the audience here. Your fear of this audience and previous council meetings is irrational. Council passed a menacing ordinance a few months ago that gives council greater rights than any person in Akron in terms of menacing. Most threats are idle threats. If a threat is real, our Akron Police Department ought to be able to determine a real threat and deal with that threat. Councilperson Holland, come out of hiding and council needs to reduce the police presence at council meetings. Lastly, 4, I continue to implore council to pass a resolution to end funding to both Israel and Ukraine, to call for a ceasefire between Israel and Palestine and between Ukraine and Russia, and push for real negotiations among all the warring parties. The U.S. must stop its complicity in funding this violence. A majority of Americans, in a recent poll, 68% want a ceasefire in Israel. Ukrainians are tired of war. The U.S. government must stop using Ukrainians to weaken Russia for its own nefarious purposes. The U.S. military budget is approaching $1 trillion. The might of the U.S. or Israel does not make it right. Palestinians' homes and hospitals are being destroyed and people are being killed. Thank you.
Thank you. Lillian Barnes.
Oh, there she go. Hi, Nancy. Nancy, how dare you fail your community? All because of the fact that you claim that somebody is threatening you, you decide not to come and sit in your seat. May I sit in your seat, please? I think I'll be a good council member one day, maybe, but politics is not my thing. Nancy, you have failed your community. You failed your colleagues by not actually educating something that you really don't know about. You sat here last week talking about you was threatened. How was you threatened? I want to see the threats. Please send them to me. I advocate for you if you could support that. Because I get on the community about threatening you, which I don't believe. Second, Margot, you know I don't really come after you. I actually try to respect you. But a mom came here not last week, but the week before, she spoke about her children. With me being the advocate that I am, all I'm asking is for you all to come and support this mom. She didn't deserve to be having her kids taken away over truancy, because she wants to homeschool her children. That's not right. That's not fair. Her name is Michelle Wright. Please reach out, because I looked at all her documents. Them documents can fill your face up. I wouldn't be able to face you eye to eye. So please reach out because of the fact that she needs her kids back. The way they doing her is the way they did me, lied. Made it seem like I was this crazy alcoholic, drug addict mom, which I have never been. She has every right to come in at the people that she's coming to in the way that she's coming to them. We are Black women. We are strong, and we're beautiful. The way our demeanor is could be strong. I can admit to her. So I'm asking you, because we did an interview, and she deserves to have her children back, period. So I hope that you actually keep your promise of reaching out to her. I'm going to read a scripture from the Quran, and forgive me if because I cannot pronounce it right, because I have not read the Quran in a long time. It's 98, Surah 98, Al-Bahana, 98.3. The revealed book of the Prophet Islam consists of internal laws and commandments. It contains laws that are not only good for humans and social and spiritual lives, but commandments that are everlasting and imperishable. It qualifies the previous scriptures lacked in...
Lillian, I'm so sorry, but your time is up.
I can't finish reading the scripture?
No, I'm sorry.
That's okay. But free Palestine. Nancy, get to your job.
Ashley White. Ashley White.
Hello. I came here after last week and the week before, trying to think of something to say that would be different than what everybody's been saying for the past month. And I can't really think of anything because we've told stories about people who have had their whole lives interrupted, who one day were spending a nice day with their kids, having a birthday party, talking to their friend on the phone, and the next day they don't have water, they don't have electricity. Some of them are buried under the rubble. Some people had a baby last month, and that baby is now stuck in a hospital without an incubator, without heat, a ventilator. So I can't think of any stories that I can say that could convince anybody who has heard them to have more humanity than they have right now, because these stories are horrific. And because of the dehumanization of the Palestinian people, people will listen to them and just think, that's another statistic, that's another issue for someone else. So I'm urging, and I know a few members of council have expressed their desire for a ceasefire. I wish that we could all have the same compassion, but I'm urging the council to push the resolution through to support the divestment from Kiryat Akron and to take away aid from Israel, because they are not trying to get Hamas, who they seems to claim everybody is Hamas. I saw an Israeli official this week claim that United Nations doctors were Hamas. So doctors, journalists, apparently anybody who can't afford or isn't physically able to walk miles a day with their hands raised above their head, waving a flag, who doesn't leave North Gaza, they're all Hamas. So that obviously doesn't make sense. Clearly, that's just a cover to kill anybody they can. And I think that we have to stand and say we don't support that. I know some council members have said that we are only city council members. What can we do? We deal with issues here. But we at least can use our voice to say that we don't support this. Because when you don't say anything, you're helping the aggressor. They don't hear any pushback. They say that we didn't bomb a hospital and we sit there quietly, and then next week all the hospitals are being bombed. So I think that we need to take a stand and make sure that it's known that Akron, Ohio, which apparently is a city of peace, I saw a sticker that said that, is actually a city of peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Ebony Brown.
One second, sorry.
I sit on a man's back, choking him and making him carry me. And yet, I do my best to assure myself and others that I am sorry for him and that I would like to do anything to lighten his load by any means, except to get off his back. Welcome to imperialism. Do you understand how offensive it is as council people to say, I have such little power, when I have to come to you and ask you to be my voice, to to represent me, to represent Akron. I have another poem for you. Did you tackle that trouble that came your way with a resolute heart and cheerful? Or hide your face from the light of day with a craven soul and fearful? A trouble's a ton, or a trouble's an ounce, or trouble is what you make it. And it isn't the fact that you're hurt that's count, but only how did you take it. So you're beaten to earth, well, what's that? Come up with a smiling face. It is nothing against you to fall down flat, but to lie there, that is disgrace. You disgrace me. You disgrace all of the citizens of Akron by not moving on a resolution today. You had the opportunity, and yet I see you guys saying, wait. Every week, every single week, you declare an emergency. If this isn't the situation that would require an emergency, thousands dead, and I see you rolling your eyes, thousands dead, thousands, every day. Is that not an emergency? And yet you guys want to wait and bide your time. People have spoken to the community members, and now you are waiting to let others speak over top of those community members. I have some statistics for you again this week. Remember how I told you about 4,000 babies dead, now 6, about, 1,000 babies a week getting killed every week as we wait and bide our time to make sure that this is genocide. Israel dropped 6,000 bombs in 1 week, the first week of the bombardment, more bombs than the US has dropped in our most aggressive year of Afghanistan. But let's confirm and wait, bide our time to see if this is genocide. Almost 2,000 people killed a week. Wait. Let's wait on freeing Palestine.
Thank you. William Reynolds.
You hypocrites, or at least some of you are, you start every meeting with a pledge of allegiance. Allegiance means loyalty or commitment by an individual to a group or cause. That allegiance you pledged is to the flag of the United States of America, which ends with one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Let me repeat that. Liberty and justice for all. Let's learn something tonight. What does liberty actually mean? The dictionary defines liberty as the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. And justice is defined as a we know what liberty, we know what justice is. The issues that I hear people talking about here, the issues that happen in the city, it's bullying. People who are stronger or more better eloquent, richer, whatever. They're bullying and oppressing people who shouldn't be that.
Thank you, William. Acacia Reynolds.
Hello, council members, including my own new council member who is not here among us today. I know you have missed me. I am now, as you can see, a working woman in our city. Council, I just can't fathom. There are so many things going on in this city that you have the power to help us. You have the power to help the people of this city. But you are doing more to fund police or, how shall I put it? Other bullying organizations who are taking children away from their mothers. It breaks my heart as a homeschooled woman who went kindergarten through 12th grade as a homeschooled individual, knowing that my parents were almost jailed because they wanted their child to actually learn. I have considered homeschooling my own children. Did we not just hear a gentleman say that a child told him that Lake Erie was in the Pacific Ocean? And yet we question why this mother may not have wanted her children to grow up in a school system that the child may have fallen through the cracks. When I was in school, I would have fallen through the cracks. I guarantee it. But because my parents were able to give me individualized attention, I am a well-learned, college-educated woman today. There is no conscionable way we can say that we can't stand up for those amongst us who don't have the voice or the knowledge of how to fight a system that is trying to oppress them. I am a college-educated person, and I struggle to fight the system sometimes. I know a lot of the history involved in the wars going on in Ukraine and in Israel and Palestine. To all those in power, I would say, your war is not against women and children and old people. Like, who looks at a baby and says, that's an animal? Not possible. I don't care.
Keisha, I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me time.
You're welcome. Reverend Beatty?
Thank you, Madam President and members of the council. Yes, it's collective punishment, something that no grade school teacher would do to her class. Yes, it's a massive war crime. Yes, it's extreme cruelty. Yes, it's a hate crime. Yes, it's self-defeating madness. Yes, it's wrong, wrong, wrong. Yes, it's physical and mental abuse of innocent children and babies. Yes, it's not just a war on Hamas, it's a war on all Palestinians for wanting their freedom to stay on their own land, for resisting the American colony, for resisting the arrogance of pure evil, for resisting the idolatry of a godless military that worships its high-tech methods of surveillance and utter destruction, with made-in-America bombs that are delivered with American-made fighter planes, tanks, and Caterpillar bulldozers. Yes, it's not an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth, but mass murder of helpless human beings. No, they are not animals. No, they are not vermin. No, they are not grass to be mowed down every few years. No, they are not slaves to be segregated, beaten, and raped until they pledge allegiance to their conquerors and are silent and accept their fate. Look, look, open your eyes. Don't believe the Israeli propaganda, but see what they're doing. Withholding food and life-giving water, withholding fuel for hospital generators. Pray for Israel. Pray for the Israelis who have to put up with the madman. Netanyahu is so evil that he refuses a ceasefire for freeing the hostages, his people's hostages. Who orders the bombing of UN schools? Who bombs Christian and Muslim hospitals and ambulances? Who targets journalists and their families to hide the truth? Act to save your own humanity. Call the White House. Save Biden's presidential reelection. Call your senators. Palestine must be free from the river to the sea. Free Israel from blind hate. Free Jews to love their Christian and Muslim brothers and sisters who all three love the same God. Allah, Yahweh, God. Free Israel from being a blight on human history.
Reverend Beatty, I'm sorry, your time is up. Reverend Beatty. Thank you, Reverend Beatty. Christina Marie. Okay, here she comes.
I urge City Council to immediately sign the new resolution proposed by members of the Akron community. Ultimately, what is needed is an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestine. Right now, what is needed is a ceasefire in Gaza. Right now, because every second that goes by without everyone doing the very most they can to bring the siege to an end means more innocent blood spilled, more innocent lives lost, more families torn to pieces. We must call for a ceasefire now, because this familiarity with death and destruction is not new to the Palestinian people. This has been their reality for decades, which is why Section 5 of the proposed resolution states that the City of Akron affirms the need for all to abide by international law and to immediately end the illegal occupation of the Palestinian people and the illegal settlements on occupied land. Shamas. I don't see where the problem is here. Do you not agree that Akron should affirm the need for all to abide by international law? As you yourself said earlier, Palestine is in fact being illegally occupied by the State of Israel. Israel has illegal settlements on occupied land, so what is holding you back from supporting this section of the resolution? Earlier today, you stated that the resolution suggests that one side is solely responsible for 75 years of conflict. Who do you think the two sides are? I'm not sure if you're just confused. This resolution was written in solidarity with people, all people, including Palestinian and Jewish people. It is against illegal occupation. The morals of this resolution are clear to those who know the difference between people in the oppressive states that use military occupation to limit self-determination. So yes, it is one side that is solely responsible, and that is the side of Western imperialism and settler colonialism of the apartheid state of Israel. Okay, I hope that clears things up for you. And I hope you can quickly sign the new resolution and then follow that up with cutting ties to Kiryat Akron and apartheid businesses and demilitarizing the Akron police. Thank you.
Thank you. Wesley Martin. Wesley Martin. Okay. Grace. Is Grace here? Okay. All right, we do have a few individuals who have signed up virtually, so we want to give them an opportunity. The last name is Barone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. You can begin.
All right. Good evening, City Council. I'm here to ask that the Akron City Council issue a statement condemning the U.S. and Israel's horrific and very clear genocidal campaign against the people of Gaza. It is absolutely incredible that we must even ask for such a thing in 2023. Because of the U.S.'s unwavering military, political, and financial support, Israel has already indiscriminately killed over 11,000 people and seriously injured 30,000 people in a 37-day period. 1 out of every 200 people has been savagely murdered by the Israeli Defense Forces. Israel, funded by our tax dollars, has demolished the infrastructure of a once thriving city and has destroyed the lives of thousands, leaving children orphaned and forever traumatized. Israel, with the unwavering support of the United States, continues to target the innocent at hospitals, schools, and refugee camps. Children, mothers, fathers, and the elderly are relentlessly slaughtered right before all of our eyes. This is very clearly not a war, but an ongoing attempt at the control of and decimation of a people, a culture, and a land, which began in 1948, not on October 7th. 85% of Hamas members are orphans whose parents were killed in periodic Israeli airstrikes. This is how resistance groups in both Gaza and the West Bank started. They were radicalized by the constant murder of their people. Yet the world's cries for a ceasefire fall on deaf ears. Our elected representatives are failing not only their constituents, but the world as a whole. Democracy means nothing if our representatives refuse to heed the cries of their community members during times of crisis. People are losing faith in their governments around the world. Unsurprisingly, the public response to this catastrophe has been overwhelmingly in favor of demanding a ceasefire, but somehow our representatives continue to sit on the fence and stay silent. This is not about politics. This is about basic human decency and human rights. The people in Gaza are starving to death, dying from infection, and now with almost no hospitals remaining to care for them as they are persistently bombarded by Israel. They walk helplessly amongst their dead brothers, sisters, sons, and daughters. I urge you and plead you to issue a statement condemning the U.S. and Israel's war crimes in Gaza by calling for an immediate ceasefire. Thank you.
Thank you. Gabe, are you online with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm here to call on each member of council to pass the resolution that was drafted by the community members of Akron regarding Palestine. It is the very first, most bare minimum step you could take to show solidarity and humanity to the people of Palestine and Akron's Palestinian community. I'm calling for you to pass not just the first 3 parts of the resolution that were read out earlier, but parts 4 and 5 as well, and especially Section 5 calling for an immediate ceasefire, or Section 4 calling for an immediate ceasefire, and Section 5, which calls for an immediate end to the internationally illegal Israeli occupation of Palestinian land. We've come here for weeks to explain the facts of this occupation. I won't waste any more time to do this tonight. Pass this resolution as the bare minimum first step you should have taken week 1 of this genocide. There is work, an incredible amount more work to be done. We've also come to you week after week to tell you about the number of ways you yourselves have continued to allow these same conditions little by little to take root here in Akron. One huge example being tonight's renewal of our flat cameras, which disproportionately survey Black Akronites and political dissidents The same as how Palestinians in the West Bank are surveyed by both the Israeli occupation forces and by illegal Israeli quote-unquote civilian settlers. When I watch videos of Israeli occupation forces detaining entire groups of Palestinian people and forcing them to stand still for a picture so that they can add their faces to the central AI identification database, I can't help but viscerally remember videos of our police department crowding people into a group on Copley Road this past April so that they could film them on their own personal cell phones tucked into their bulletproof vests. People coming and speaking each week at this city council and filming APD drones zooming in on their faces. People talking about having to drive past 10 flock cameras in order to even get to council tonight. This surveillance is still being funded even today. So you will hear a lot more from all of these amazing, informed, and principled people in the coming weeks about how to continue to uproot this racism, colonialism, and surveillance here in Akron. As for right now, though, immediately, while thousands more people are being bombed and starved on their way down the death march from northern to southern Gaza, take the only acceptable action here and pass every single section, 1 through 5, of this resolution immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie Pruitt, are you online with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can begin.
I am here in response to the City Council meeting earlier today where a resolution condemning the siege on Gaza was introduced and immediately stalled 1 week in an effort to give the council time to come up with a better reason for why they will object to basic needs such as anti-violence, humanitarian aid, and an end to colonization. In the justifications for stalling this resolution and not the Zionist one that was passed unanimously a couple weeks ago, multiple council members claimed that they should never have passed the first one as an emergency, that they should have taken time to learn more and listen to the community. While this sentiment is insincere and just the only thing council members could think to say without admitting to the double standard, it still begs the question of whose livelihoods can't wait and whose lives we can put a pin in the name of performing quote-unquote careful consideration. It is not an emergency when a concentration camp continues to be a concentration camp, but it is an emergency when the perpetrators of a concentration camp are faced with retaliation. It is an emergency when anti-Zionism is conflated with anti-Semitism, but not an emergency when ethnic cleansing is conflated with self-defense. When Akron Palestinian and Jewish voices have already been heard, and yet more voices are required, it begs the question of which voices you are planning on cherry-picking for your own agenda. I say this all on the record so that if council rejects this resolution and sustains its Zionist one, that there is a chronicle of how Akron is a city that was not just silently complicit, but vocally explicit about their support for the attempted genocide of Palestinians back in 2023. Buying time buys you nothing that we haven't already seen out of a playbook used over and over again. I hope that you prove us wrong and show us that you have some humanity left to spare for the people of Palestine and pass this resolution. I also wanted to take a second to talk about how awful it is that a 5-year renewal of flock cameras was passed unanimously without a second thought. The discussions around it today were barely discussions. It was very blinking, you'll miss it. You know that there are people in your community who are against the kind of mass surveillance that flock cameras provide for police who are not for the people, or anybody for that matter who has access to information about when and where people are going from the moment they leave their houses to the moment they return. Why was this passed without the chance for people to decide whether they want to allow the city to take away basic rights of privacy, personal comfort, and safety? It's despicable. Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize if I mispronounced the name. Is Rami online with us?
Yes, yeah, I'm here.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna just jump right into it. I did not show up in person because I have COVID right now. The horrors of being on Zoom is watching people like Nancy Holland just flail her arms while Palestinians, many traumatized Palestinians are opening up to her and being vulnerable, not just with her, but in general, at large, to me and to the public. I'm confused how I've been watching Tara Mosley talk to something to her left or right for like 45 minutes. While again, Palestinians and pro-Palestinian activists alike have been pouring their hearts out. Now, again, it's not for you, it's to each other, right? Like, we don't come here for you, we come here for each other, to show each other that it's not as bleak as it is when we're watching you on our TVs. I'm gonna stop talking here, but I do implore, I don't know, Margot, if it's you that has the say over if phones should be banned. I think you should confiscate phones at city council meetings because you have some distracted civil servants, if I do say so myself. But I'm gonna just jump to my voice. I'm kind of done sharing my POV. It doesn't matter. I'm here in Northeast Ohio. I'm gonna read from Dr. Mustafa Al-Masri, who is a Ghazan psychotherapist and psychologist who is actively under siege as we speak. He tweeted this on October 18th. Note that he did not start tweeting on the 7th, but on the 18th. So God knows how much we've missed. October 18th, Dr. Mustafa says, "We are dying by the hundreds every day. Is anybody there?" October 19th, Dr. Mustafa says, "It's not sympathy that we need now. Do something. Zionists started this massacre with permission from your government in your name." October 21st, Dr. Mustafa tweets, 20 trucks full of death coffins, but they're gender labeled. Thank you, United States and the United Nations. I can die laughing at least. October 21st, he says again, we do not need coffins because our martyrs are buried in their clothes. We do not want food. What is the point of feeding anybody that will soon be slaughtered? We do not need we need medicine and we need fuel. Above all, immediate ceasefire and stopping the genocide. This was on October 21st. October 23rd, I am not the same person. My mind goes numb as I try to process some of the death and destruction and loss around. Being still alive seems to be the hardest problem. October 23rd, the Zionist narrative is shifting from we can strive to avoid harming civilians to civilian casualties are unavoidable and beyond control, like you sound. His Twitter is Gaza_psych, PSYCH.
Rami, thank you. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. We're now going to move into committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Freeman.
Yep.
Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 p.m.
Parks and Recreation, Councilman Lombardo.
1:45.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
2:45.
Council, is there anything else coming before this body at this time? Councilman Neal?
Please do not start my 5 minutes. I have a question for council that was sent in an email. Please do not start my 5 minutes. We have legal counsel that serves this council. They have not been here for the past 2 weeks, for sure. When people give us a public comment, we're supposed to get a list on who those requests are sent to and how they are answered as council. One of the questions that came before us was the question regarding Beyond Expectation Barber College. It was stated that council would look into it and investigate it. Council, we have not done this. So I sent an email asking if we could get an answer from the young man that asked, what is the difference? What's the conflict of interest between Beyond Expectation Barber College getting the $30,000 that was awarded to them and then pulled away compared to a member of council and a member of the administration getting money through the indigent burial funds? Now, I used to do business with the city before I became on council. When I became on council, I ceased doing business with the city. I used to do the Akron Arts Festival at Hardesty Park. Used to do Tiny Tots at Ed Davis. Used to do all the softball uniforms. But I understood when I became a part of council that I had to let that go. Where is our legal counsel to answer that question? Since this body has not had a chance to come together and do its due diligence per the charter to look into a matter that it was stated that council would look into.
As I stated a couple of weeks ago, that I would ask the mayor to give us a timeline in terms of what happened during the application process, and he has assured me that he will have that to us this week, which means all of council will have that information, and all of the public will also have that information this week. So I'll make sure that you get it as soon as I do.
Well, again, I appreciate that, but the law department is both legal counsel for the legislative body and the mayor. Yes, the mayor appoints them, but they work for us as well. I asked a very specific question. What's the legal opinion of the law department regarding the question on why is it a conflict of interest for the grant to be awarded to someone who's not on council yet, hasn't been sworn in, but yet we have a member in administration and a member in council that can receive direct funds from the city? Is there a reason why legal counsel is not here? I sent that email out and I asked that question. Maybe you're not the one that should be, because it's a conflict of interest for you to answer it. Can someone from the law department please come out? Is anyone here from the law department?
Councilman Neal, there is no one here from the law department
That's
that can answer your question.
That's disrespectful.
So
Okay,
I do
now I'd like
apologize.
for my 5 minutes.
No, your time
No,
is running. You have 2 minutes
no,
remaining.
No. Well, let me say this. One, the audit of this council's policies and practices need to be looked at seriously. And Councilman Malik, when you come in, you owe the citizens of this city not just an audit, but a forensic audit of this city's books. Not just an audit by the county, where a former finance director now works for the county. For some 30, almost 40 years, this city's books have not been audited. We saw Section 28, and just today, talking about the finances. And to protect yourself, I would have a forensic audit done of the city's books. Hopefully next week, I don't want to just hear from the mayor. I'd like a legal opinion from our law department. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Amobian?
I rise just to acknowledge and to thank all of you for coming down. I don't have the words. I can only tell you that what I have seen on television and what I've heard from you as individuals has truly touched me, and I know we need to do better down here, and we will. My heart breaks for all of the unnecessary violence and killing all over. And I thank you for coming down. I thank you for your words. And I personally will be in prayer, and hopefully this will end soon. And I think the citizens of Akron care deeply about what is happening as well. And I think we would all like to see an end to this conflict. So thank you very much for coming down.
Anything else coming before council at this time? Councilman Fusco?
Just real quick, it has certainly become fashionable to talk about council members individually. And I understand, this is what we sign up for. So I understand that. But we are all mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, and we do all feel. And watching, hearing, listening, we all feel very empathetic about what's going on around our world. We all do. We all feel that, and we're all very passionate about it. And our hearts go out to those who are affected directly with regards to this. I can tell you this, though. Margot Somerville, Nancy Holland, Sharon Connor, Tara Mosley, Shamus, Malik, the rest of us around this horseshoe, we have all condemned violence of any kind in this world. We voted on that October 16th, condemning violence all over. So I know that we all do that, condemn the violence, and do all we can. In terms of taking that 1 week's time, you know, we reacted very quickly on the basis of what occurred on October 9th. And so therefore, we were told we should have taken time. We're not doing that. And so let's go ahead and move forward, and let's listen to the community, appreciate those that have come down, and move forward from there. But I do know this, that this council, and I believe everyone in our city, condemns violence all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Neal? Councilman Neal? Please maintain order in the chambers. Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, this council, I think owes, let me put some things in context. This resolution that came before council truly is a resolution from the community. Members from the Jewish community, Islamic community, Palestinian community, community at large played a role in this resolution. Was everyone satisfied with everything in the resolution? No, but we had stated that this resolution is a starting point for us to garner greater understanding of where we have differences. The members of this council that requested to take time, you owe it to those who brought in the resolution to share where you have an issue with the resolution so that your concerns can be addressed. Just state, where are your concerns? Our brothers and sisters from the Jewish community have shared their concerns. This council needs to state, where are your concerns so that they can be addressed? I want to read something from Dr. King, and then I'll take my seat. And if any of you know anything about Dr. King, he wrote a letter from the Birmingham jail to those white ministers and black ministers who questioned his involvement in the civil rights movement. And so this, please understand, this is not a Jewish or Muslim issue. It's not just an Israeli-Palestinian issue. This is a humanitarian issue that needs to be addressed. But I'm speaking right now specifically to my Christian brothers and sisters who I understand want to wait till December 4th to have a discussion about this. I'm speaking specifically to my white Christian brother who sits on council. And in Dr. King's letter from the Birmingham jail, and excuse me because I lost my place, he basically spoke about, and because I can't find it, I won't be able to quote him verbatim, but here it is, excuse me, I'll read it now. He says, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Never again can we afford to live with the narrow, provincial, outside agitator idea. I said this afternoon that when we look at it as an Israeli or Palestinian, a Jew or Islamic, when we look at it as a gay or a straight, a black or a white, subconsciously, you know what we do? We place value on people. And it makes it easy for us to devalue each other. That's why I said strip all that away and just look at the humanity that's involved in this thing. The loss of life. And I ask you, what do you have that would cause you to pause to address the loss of life? What? Because we all hide behind our religion, our politics, or whatever. Strip all that away. Just life. So whatever is keeping you from being able to address your concerns openly, there may be something that you don't agree with in the resolution. I appreciate you speaking this afternoon. Say that so that it can be addressed. This resolution is a start. But us taking time, every hour, life is lost. And our silence is a form of complicitness. So, Madam Chair, again, whenever public comments come, they're supposed to be forwarded to us on who's addressing them. Members of council that have concerns, if you could please share what those concerns are so that the body of folks who wrote this resolution can address them. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, please maintain decorum in the chambers. Thank you so much. But Councilman Neal, to your point, public comments, they are forwarded to the ward council person, so all you have to do is just check your email. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Motion to adjourn, no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding. Please exit